alert! Learning is important, right?
Yes, exactly. What a bunch of nerds.
Nerd alert!
That's right.
Marketing Architects.
Hello, and welcome to the Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena Jasper. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rob DeMars, the Chief Product Architect of Misfits and Machines.
Hello!
Hello. We are back with your weekly Nerd Alert. Every week, I'll take a deep dive into academic marketing research and translate its complex ideas into simple, understandable language for Rob and, of course, for all of you. Are you ready to nerd out, Rob?
Nerd mode is activated. Let's do this.
All right, let's get into it. As always, we'll link the research we cover in the episode notes. This week, I read a study titled Advertising's Long-Term Impact on Brand Price Elasticity Across Brands and Categories. This is by Burke Adaman from KOC University, Koen Pauwels from OZN University, Shubha Srinivasan from Boston University, and Mark Van Hulu from HEC Paris. I worked very hard to pronounce all those names.
I'm really impressed. That was really good, Elena.
Thank you. These people, they put so much work into these studies. I try to do my best to pronounce their names correctly. But before I get into it, Rob, I want to ask you something. What are your current assumptions about how advertising can impact a brand's pricing power?
I think a brand's equity definitely impacts pricing power. I guess the example I would give is when I go into Target and I'm looking at a shelf with high quality generic products. Oftentimes I know those products are actually the same as the product with the fancy label, but I still associate that branded item as worth the difference in cost oftentimes, just because I trust it, I believe that brand, and so I think it does impact it. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, we're going to find out just how correct you are. So I was really excited to see Professor Pauwels. He's pretty active on LinkedIn, and he shared this study a while ago. And I thought, all right, we got to talk about this on Nerd Alert because we talk about pricing power a lot on the podcast. Angela is very passionate about advertising's ability to improve pricing power. We've seen it for our clients. And so I believe that in my heart and soul. But I've heard some pushback and doubt from others about how effective advertising really is at something as important as raising your prices without consequence from your customer. So today we're going to talk about pricing power and maybe do a little bit of myth busting. So let's get into it. This study discusses the long-term effects of advertising on a brand's price elasticity. So they dive into how advertising impacts how sensitive consumers are to price changes. And they also look at when and why advertising works to reduce the sensitivity. It's full of insights for marketers who might want to, perfect their budgets and maximize how much they can charge a customer, because that's how you're going to be more profitable. But first, let's define a term. Price elasticity measures how much a change in price affects demand for a product. So a low price elasticity means customers are less likely to change their buying behavior when prices shift. And this study, it analyzed 7 years of data from 350 brands across 39 product categories of fast-moving consumer goods. So that'd be things like cereal, shampoo, and beverages. And the researchers, they didn't just look at a brand's own advertising. They also factored in advertising from competitors in the same category. And here's where it gets really cool and nerdy. Both a brand's own ads and a competitor's ads can lower price sensitivity. So even competitors' advertising can indirectly benefit your brand by drawing attention to the category as a whole. So some brands are doing the heavy lifting for others. So Rob, advertising, it's especially effective at improving pricing power for certain categories. Can you guess what those are?
I would think ones that have more margin in it, like higher ticket items, because you just have that ability to put more brand imagery into the products and demand more from that.
All right. Yeah, well, I'm going to reveal the answer, tell you if you're right or wrong. But first, I want to define some.
Do you need like one of those buzzers? Sorry, Rob.
That's so aggressive. No, you've been really right. You've been really spot on today. I'm impressed. So first, again, define some terms. When they reference, do you say niche or niche, Rob?
Personally, I say niche.
Niche. I do too. All right. So we're going to use that. When they reference niche brands, what they mean are brands with higher prices, but lower perceived quality compared to the average brand in their category. So that makes them different from premium brands. Those are high priced and high perceived quality. That's kind of what you were talking about, right, Rob? Mm-hmm. You're referring to premium brands. They also have value brands. Those are low priced and high perceived quality. And economy brands, low priced and low perceived quality. So here's what they found. Rob is right. If you're in a niche, complex, or high price category, advertising works wonders to reduce price sensitivity. On the flip side, if you're managing a lower priced brand, the benefits might be smaller or even negative because the competitive dynamics and consumer expectations differ. So, advertising in crowded or fast growing categories helps lower price sensitivity more than in stagnant or less competitive ones. It's like advertising gives consumers a map to navigate complex or noisy markets. It helps them feel more confident about their choices, and that often leads to a willingness to pay a premium. So, niche brands, which again are higher priced but perceived as lower in quality, they saw the biggest return on advertising and reducing price sensitivity. Premium brands, like you said, also benefited, though a little less dramatically. And lower priced brands, like you said, they just didn't fare as well. They sometimes even saw negative returns. So to summarize for marketers, this study, it shows us that advertising does reduce price sensitivity, particularly for niche and premium brands in complex or competitive categories, because it enhances brand differentiation and consumer confidence. And even your competitors' ads can indirectly benefit your brand by increasing category attention and consideration. And now for our Rob GPT. Advertising is like seasoning a dish. Your ads add to the bold spices that make your brand memorable, while even competitors' ads sprinkle a little extra flavor, enhancing the whole category. For niche and premium brands, it's the perfect recipe to keep consumers savoring every bite, even at a premium price. All right, what do you think? Did you follow?
I like it. I like it. I spent half this time thinking about niche or niche.
Oh,
and
no.
I think, and I think that I've said both. Niches just sounds fancier.
I agree.
You sound a little more intelligent. I need all the help I can get. That was good. I think that's really interesting. I think the overall premise of oftentimes why we're in marketing, it's to help you decide between one product or the other, and the intangible value that you can add to a brand makes a difference, not just in your ability to sell a product, but your ability to price a product. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think I was a little bit surprised by it. Like sometimes I think if you think of a real premium brand, a lot of times they don't advertise a lot. Think about like, I
Louis
don't know, just like
Vuitton
Coach,
or-
Louis Vuitton. Yeah, like I don't see them. I'm not going to know what a premium, one of the premium fashion brands is. But again, some of those brands, you don't see them as much on TV. It makes you think that maybe some brands that are on TV, like a Tiffany, are just raising the category for everybody. But I was a little bit surprised. I'm not so much surprised by lower priced brands, but I don't know. It's interesting for sure.
100%. Always, there's certain brands, we're just chatting now, right? Rolex is really interesting to me because it's obviously that's a high ticket brand and you don't see them on television. But then, like, I was at LAX and they branded one of the clocks at LAX. It was a Rolex. They used the Rolex thing around there. And I'm like, what? It's just interesting. Like, high-end brands make interesting, unusual choices. Or they'll do a tennis match, the Wimbledon. Thank you. Niche. It's very interesting how high-end brands usually have a lot of excess money to throw around. And so they can make unusual choices, but they aren't, you're right. They're not really choosing to do television. They're doing high-end magazines.
Well, I suppose they're also spending a lot of money on advertising. So that's actually a good fact check that they might not all be on television, but they are sponsoring huge sporting events. I mean, they're signaling through very expensive ad placements.
Right. It's almost like a flex to say, okay, we're going to own the clock at LAX, right?
Right. So one thing I did that I forgot to mention that could be helpful for people is I was wondering, like, they talk about all these different types of brands, like niche brands, premium brands. Are you in a complex category, a competitive category? Some examples, I asked ChatGPT for examples of brands in these categories based on how they define it. So these are brands that ChatGPT thinks would benefit from advertising. It could help them with their pricing power. The first one they said was Tesla, which I thought was so funny because Tesla doesn't really like advertising. Peloton, which they're a big advertiser. Dyson, big, probably famous advertiser. Premium brands like Apple, Louis Vuitton, BMW, Mercedes-Benz. Specialty foods like Beyond Meat. I know they do some advertising. High-end skincare. You see that on TV quite a bit. Tech startups. So competitive SaaS categories.
Yeah, interesting.
And then craft beer. That's kind of a high competition category. Pet care. Competitive premium market for stuff like the Farmer's Dog. And we know that they're massive TV advertisers. So if that helps people, those are kind of some examples. That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. We'd like to thank Taylor De Los Reyes for producing the show. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you like the podcast, please leave us a review. Now go forth and build great marketing.
Marketing Architects.